Hello, hello, hello. And today I am coming to you with transformational moments with Dr. TCK. Yes, that is me, your transformational coach K, and I am so happy to be here with you on today. I am so happy to that you have tuned in. Today, I want to talk to you about internal struggles. We go through so many internal struggles that uh, it's so hard to put a name to them sometimes. It's so hard to even verbalize them sometimes. And I'm saying to this to you because I too have gone through and still do go through internal struggles. And the one thing about internal struggles is that a lot of times it makes us feel alone. It makes us feel isolated. It makes us feel as if nobody else goes through these things. But I'm here to tell you that all of us struggle with internal struggles. All of us struggle with internal issues, internal concerns that we may not share, these silent battles, as a friend of mine calls them, these silent battles. And so I just want to share with you, like just recently, literally, like just within a couple of days, I went through a silent battle. And it was triggered because of a movie that I watched. Had no idea that the movie was going to have me it was going to trigger me in the way that it did, and it triggered me such that it made me think about my past, at one of the dark times in my life where I thought about my past and guilt, uh, shame, feeling out of place, feeling not myself. All of those feelings came up amongst others that I can't even describe. And I just remember feeling very irritated, felt very irritated. Didn't talk about it with anybody, didn't want to talk about it with anybody, but just felt very irritated. And the fact that we go through these moments, um, it's okay to go through these moments because it's in these moments that we grow. It's in these moments that we learn from from it. It's in these moments that we learn and develop uh strategies to help us cope and deal with the situation. Sometimes those cope and deal strategies are not necessarily great, and then sometimes they are, but it's still a learning experience. It still allows us to figure out what works for us to help us move past those situations and heal, and inevitably heal from the situation and begin the healing process. Again, it's a process, and so it was through that I sat in it. I quit everything that I tried, all the different coping mechanisms that I have for myself. I tried it. Nothing was working. Nothing was sticking. It was just like, oh my goodness. And I just kept getting more irritable and more irritable and more irritable as time went on. It's to the point where I said, you know what? I'm shutting it down. I'm going to sleep. And so it was during that time that I went to sleep, and I even woke up irritable, not in the best mental space the next day. And so again, I sat in there trying to figure out, okay, why am I feeling this way? What's going on with me? Why is it that it's kind of making me it feel uh, uh, kind of paralyzed in this feeling? Trying to figure that out. Still really didn't even really want to think about it, to be honest. Didn't really want to, I still didn't want to talk about it. Still didn't really want to talk to people either. But ended up trying to, again, going through my coping mechanisms that I had, tried to go through them again to see what would happen. And still nothing was sticking, nothing was helping me move through it, move past it, navigate through it. And I ended up turning on something dealing with music, and that kind of shifted my energy a little bit to the point where my evening got better. This is a whole nother day, but it went to my evening where I was still feeling kind of irritable and dealing with this internal struggle. So I did that, and got into a better energy space or better mental space, and I was able to go to sleep with a different vibe, with a different feeling. And so it was when it was this morning actually, this morning where I actually, um, a person called me, a very close confidant of mine called me and asked me a question. And the question was simply, um, how do I see myself? I don't remember exactly how we got there, but that question was so loaded for me because it was a question that I could not answer at the moment. Question that I couldn't answer at the moment. One was because, and I was just honest, it was just because I had didn't know how my day was going because I literally immediately just woke up and was dealing with meetings and things of that nature. But then it was also, so I hadn't had a chance to process to see how my day was going, what was going on, how I was really feeling, or whether or not I was feeling any better than I was previously. But the question of how do I see myself, it did something to me, because I often ask this question to my clients, to people I encounter and interact with on a daily basis, family members, friends, things of that nature. And it was so loaded that I had to answer it in different ways. I couldn't have officially answered the question initially. Um, I couldn't answer it initially. I had to kind of give some background discussions about uh, things. And it ended up going back to my trigger point that had happened a couple of days ago. And so it kind of led me to go kind of dig deeper into that and why I was triggered, and how it made me feel, how I was feeling, and things of that nature. And what I was reminded of was how to get through it. So these internal struggles are going to go, they're going to come and they're going to go. They're going to come often, and depending on what season you're in, it's going to come to kind of it's in the spiritual world we call it a test. Sometimes these tests will come to kind of help us grow. This is my viewpoint on how I look at it. Okay. And so although this internal struggle that I was dealing with did not feel good at the time, and everything that I tried, I couldn't navigate through it. But it's those moments when you really have to decide, okay, enough is enough. What can I do? And I'm a firm believer. There's nothing wrong with sitting in how you feel, and until you're able to better navigate it. But I always say, just don't live there. Okay. So I want to give you some strategies to help you get past and be able to navigate these internal struggles. Again, there's just some deep work that we have to do sometimes in order to get through these internal struggles. Some internal struggles will kind of go move real quick. Others you got to kind of really do some work because it's layered. It's layered, and you have to. What you think something may be, it may not be that, and so you really have to decide to dig a little deeper and figure out, so that not that it won't come again, but that if it comes, you know how to move and navigate through it, or however it may show up for you, or whatever the next internal struggle for you, you'll know how to move through it a lot better, a lot better. And so the first thing is we need to become aware of where we are. Become aware of where we are. And so, as you heard me say with my personal example, it's, examine, okay, why am I feeling this way? Did something just trigger me? If so, what was it and why did it trigger me? How do I actually feel? Uh, and sometimes you may not be triggered by anything, and that's okay. But how did I actually feel? Why am I feeling this way? What happened that caused me to to feel this way, and why, and just why is it impacting me so much? And so it begins to allow you to be aware of your feelings, your emotions at that moment in time, and in relations to that situation. And so you can become aware of it. Awareness is key. When you become aware of things, you then know how you can move, how you can navigate through it. You then know, okay, I've learned of this is why I do this. And now you can know how to change it, right? This is where the transformation comes. You now know how to change it. And so becoming aware of where you are in that moment. Sometimes it's your actual physical surroundings that sometimes have you feel in a certain way. But becoming aware of where you are is important. You have to do that work. It's important to do that work so that you can know what it is that needs to be changed. One, become aware of it and acknowledge it. That's number one. Become aware and acknowledge it, so then you can know what it is that you may need to change. Okay, because some of it may not, some of it is us, and then some of it is other people. We can't change other people. Only thing we can control is the things that we do. So becoming aware of it so that we can acknowledge it and uh, and change it. If what change make those changes. So then the next thing that we have to do is push. That's what I had to do. I couldn't at that. There's some moments that I'm able to push through on my own. This was a specific moment that I wasn't able to kind of push through. I was kind of getting stuck. I was kind of getting paralyzed, right? And it wasn't until my friend who called me, that trusted confidant who called me and was able to get me to push. They were able to get me to push past the things that I didn't want to address within myself, those feelings that was coming up. I didn't want to address it. The pain was too much. I didn't want to address it. Um, partly was because I didn't necessarily know how, and I didn't necessarily know what emotions were trying to come up. I just know that I felt guilty. I felt guilt. I felt shame. I felt uncomfortable. I felt, those were some of the things that I felt. But it wasn't until I had the conversation that just that simple question of how I saw myself brought up some emotions from that triggered internal struggle that came up for me a couple of days ago. And so I had to, it was in that conversation that I was able to push through the wall of emotions that were coming up at that moment, to so that I could address them, so that I could become aware of them. I had to actually see them for what they were, so that I can push, right? So that I can push through them. And with the pushes, the main thing is you want to know uh know is that you don't want to sit in it. You can, well, no, I'm sorry. You want to sit in it, but you don't want to live there. You can sit in those feelings. You can sit in that space for a minute, but you don't want to live there. You do not want to live there. So once you figured out why you're feeling the way you do, now it's time to push. Push through the pain and have the tough conversation with yourself so that you can move forward. You want to push. It's not going to feel comfortable. It's not going to be easy, but I challenge you to push through it so that you can get to the other side. You know, um, you want to push through it so that you can determine what it is that you need to move forward, and not live in or relive in the moment so that it begins to feel and look different. You got to push because you don't want to continue to relive those moments in the same manner every time, so that you're feeling that same pain, that same discomfort the same way. You want to push so that it can begin to look different for you, so that when you relive, so there's certain things in my past that I've relived um over and over again, partly because I chose to. There's that this is for me. Not saying this is what happens to you, but this was for me. Part because I chose to have conversations with people because I thought I was going to get a certain answer. or they were going to be able to validate something for me. No. So I relived conversations and relived situations that out of the end of it, I was didn't come out feeling any better. I actually came out feeling worse. And it was all because I was looking for a certain level of validation and or confirmation that did not come from a conversation with those people or from those moments or that situation. It could only come from me. Because at the end of the day, I had to realize that no one else is going to validate things that I need for myself. That is the end all be all. Um, why I might have felt unworthy in a situation. Yes, it may have had something to do with how I was treated or what was going on in that specific at that specific time with that specific person or individuals. But at the end of the day, there was something. Yes, there may have been something that was said or done that made me feel unworthy, but the work that had to be done had to come from me. It didn't come from somebody else. And so that's one of the things that I learned so that I could push through and not continue to relive situations and things over and over again, especially those hurtful ones, those painful ones. And so I challenge you to push. It's not going to be hard all the time. It's not going to be easy all the time, but it's not going to be hard all the time either. And my therapist actually helped me to push past some of those things so that I didn't have to encounter conversations or experiences with past individuals from past situations or at current situations at those times. But it was through my therapist that she helped me to push in another way that I didn't have to experience that person again or experience a hurtful situation or experience an abusive situation again. So again, it's in how we view things. So we want to make sure that we push through, allowing ourselves the opportunity to go through what we need to go through to get to the other side. And it doesn't necessarily have to. It's inner work. Let me say that. I'll just say that it's inner work. It's not that you have to put yourself in a situation to encounter people who were hurtful or harmful to you. It's inner work. And so just push. Sometimes when we don't want to um, feel, sometimes it's necessary to push. Sometimes it's necessary to push, and sometimes it's necessary to do it with um, someone like a therapist so that you can gain as you're pushing, you're able to walk through the situations and talk through the situations with someone that's objective that can also give you the opportunity um, to develop coping mechanisms and strategies that will help along the way. Okay. And then lastly is to take action. It's time to move. So whatever action you decided was necessary for you then to take the steps to make it happen. So you if those for so those actions could be therapy, it could be exercising, taking walks, writing creatively via whether it's a song or a poem, etc., or creative art, whether it's drawing or coloring or creating something. You want to make sure that you take action. And so for years ago, my desire to push and the necessary action that I felt I needed to take was therapy for me. That was one of the actions that I took was therapy. Um, Later on, the action became boxing, a form of exercise for me. It wasn't the exercising; it was really the boxing that I needed. And then, later on, it became mindfulness activity. So those are some examples that I've done. In addition to, yes, I've journaled, and I've changed the way that I've journaled over the years. And so before I used to journal, when I felt bad and felt sad, but I found when I reflected on my journaling, a lot of it was I was just going through so much negativity. I decided I didn't want to write about that no more. I changed my narrative and I started to write about those great things that was happening, those great feelings, so that I can kind of be more focused on that and not so much focused in the negative spaces that were occurring. And so whatever action it is that you decide to take in your moments of pushing through, take those steps to make those actions to make those actions actually happen. Okay? Yes, it's going to take some time. You may not do it right away, but you're worth it. And you should take those actions. I encourage you to. So you want to make sure that you become aware of where you are in regards to your mental space, your emotions, and how you're feeling, and how did you get there. And then you want to push. You want to push through those moments so that you can learn how to better cope and deal with those moments, so that you will, when they rise and when they come up again, you can encounter them differently. And then you want to make sure that you take actions that will help to make you better, actions that will help to make you a better individual, to be the best version of you that you can possibly be. Why? Because you are worth it. You are worth it. Internal struggles will come, internal struggles will go, but how you navigate through them will make all the difference in the world. You can sit there and feel how they make you feel, but I ask that you don't live there. Push through. Why? Because you're worth it. Thank you for joining me today on this transformational moment. Until next time, be encouraged and be intentional.